Hello, everybody. Spot of Nerd here with a brand new episode, and we're gonna have quite the fun here because this episode is going to be all about the trailer apocalypse or trailer Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer, thingamabobber, the battle of the trailers. I have got to give so much credit to Max, formerly known as HBO Max, for the release at the same time with Amazon Prime's The Rings of Power. Talk about what's that? A boss move? There's lingos get kids use today, or that I used to use that I can't remember because I'm too old. But that was the most glorious thing I have ever seen in a very long time when it came to these two trailers. You first got the teaser trailer slash trailer of the second season of Amazon Prime's The Rings of Power. Because, I mean, we haven't heard anything about this show, the second season, at all, ever. Because if you can go back, you go back on my channel, you could probably go back on any single nerd channel out there. The Rings of Power just might be, if not the worst series that has ever existed. We will only briefly get into that here on this episode, but trust me, go back, watch my episode, watch some other episodes. The Rings of Power is the definition of a failure. So the creme de la creme, the cherry on the top, was today we also got the trailer for the second season of The House of the Dragon, which stars one of my favorite Doctor Who's, Matt Smith. Now, fair warning, whatever you want to call it, I originally was not a fan of Game of Thrones. This is not a secret. I've said this many times. But with House of the Dragon, absolutely fucking amazing show. Seriously, it's supposedly a prequel thousands of years before the Game of Thrones series, but is superior in every way. And do you want to know why it absolutely destroys the Rings of Power? Is because it has a story, and it has one of the most amazing stories of different houses trying to rule the world or the land, whatever they call it. And you've got fucking dragons. I mean, you will never, ever, ever go wrong with dragons. The best creme de la creme, cherry on the top for House of the Dragon. The way they do it from the visuals. I mean, this is a television show, and the visuals destroy even some of the most recent Marvel films. Obviously, I don't necessarily know what the budget is, but I do know what the budget for the Rings of Power was, and trust me, it is not paying itself back. So, give you a few numbers here. The very first season of Rings of the Power supposedly was supposed to only cost about 100 mil to 145 mil. Ended up costing $500 million. This is where Amazon Prime goes, fuck. Fuckity fuck fuck fuck. Because only 36% of viewership actually finished the actual series itself. I think there was like 8 to 10 episodes, and from this second season, just the teaser alone, trust me, it is only going to get worse. It looks like trash. It looks as if you've ever watched something on Tubi, I don't know if many of you are familiar with Tubi, but if you are, it's one of those apps where you can just watch free shows, free movies, blah 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 blah. And it even has some of the most like amateur directors you've never heard of, with actors and actresses that you've never heard of, but somehow made a movie and was able to get it produced and put onto Tubi. That's what this second season looks like. And trust me, people, it's going to burn to the ground. You can just tell just in this 2-minute teaser trailer, whatever you want to call it. Like, Amazon has shot themselves in the foot so bad with this series, because if you don't know, little cliff notes, backtracking just a little bit, Amazon Prime bought the rights to actually do this show. They can't do everything, and I'm talking about the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit, blah 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 blah, kind of that realm, that storyline. Basically, they bought the rights to make this show. They can't do everything, but the majority of it they can. So when people first got word of it, we were all excited because, I mean, shit, yeah, let's do a story and give us what happened before the Lord of the Rings. Like, tell us the story of Gandalf and everything in between. But ultimately, it ended up being just some of the most disastrous writing, a dialogue that, quite frankly, I've seen better in a classroom of third graders, and just visually looked like Beast Wars from the 90s, you know, but the Transformers type show. It's just absolute trash. And season 2 is looking to be absolutely no different, and it's hysterical. It really, really is hysterical. If you look at the if you look at kind of the conversations going on right now in the background from the writers, the producers, the strike that recently happened just last year, the show is it's a disaster. There's nothing to it, and just reading about it, you know, from the actors to everything in between, there's no coming back from this. Like, it's one of those as if you've bought something for $1,000 million and now you can't do anything with it, but you're kind of stuck with it because you can't exactly return it. So you're basically fucked. Ultimately, on the other side of it, though, you have Max with House of the Dragon, which is dominating. Just their series, not the series, just this season finale of their first season, they had over 30 million people watching. And that is a record over Game of Thrones. Not even that many people watched the end of Game of Thrones, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But ultimately, it was an incredible record of people watching, because that's just what happens when you give us good shit. And I don't understand, obviously I completely understand, so I'm being sarcastic, why these directors, why these producers do not understand, if you give the fans what they want, good fucking storytelling, we will watch your shit. And not only that, we'll buy your merchandise, and we will spread the word of God, just like I would with the Bible. God is great. Your stories are great. Your series are great. Your characters are great. Keep it going. On the other side, you've got Amazon going, don't you want some more of our agendas and politics and ideologies and this and that? Don't you want more of that? And everybody is going, nah, I'm good. And we won't go down that road, but I love every bit of it, because finally, I think the world is turning. And I say that, I've said this before, probably in the past, and I'll say it a million times more in the future. The world is turning in relation to pop culture, in relation to television and movies. Nobody's going to the theater anymore. Let's be very clear about that. But ultimately, what it really does come down to is, they don't want this bullshit anymore. You're gonna get those rare beauties, as you might call them, I guess. One of those just fantastic series or fantastic films. The Boys was another one. Clarkson's Farm, clearly House of the Dragon. But when you have the majority escalated to the point that the Rings of Power was, specifically in the first season, which I'm pretty sure you can get where I'm going, just that's what will ultimately destroy you. And it's not us that's destroying you, it's your own self that's destroying you, if you get my meaning. AKA Amazon themselves are truly destroying themselves, if that makes sense. It's a little bit wishy-washy, but trust me, you kind of, hopefully you know where I'm going with all that. So with all of that said, we're going to keep this very brief, very simple. I want to send a huge thanks to everybody out there for watching Spot of Nerd. I would love it. Throw the likes, the comments. Tell me your thoughts. What do you think? Just the ratios alone on these two trailers on the same day being released. The Rings of Power is being destroyed with a thumbs down, while the House of the Dragon is just getting nothing but thumbs up. So check it out. It's amazing, it's laughable, it's pathetic for the Rings of Power, but I cannot wait. Both of these seasons will be starting up in June and August. We are just only going to be, we're only just starting this conversation, and it's only going to get better. So I hope you'll stay tuned, share this stuff out, blah 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 blah, the usual stuff to get Spot of Nerd out in the world. I would hugely appreciate it. So with all of that said, thank you guys so much, and we will see you all next time. Later, y'all. Real quick, the biggest thing you have to remember, and this will be the perfect end credit scene, is if you go and look at the financials for these shows, and I'm talking about both of them, House of the Dragon, The Rings of Power, and then you put it up next to multi-million-dollar studio-produced films, $465 million was the specific amount of money that it cost to make The Rings of Power Season 1. That's $500 million for a television series. Put it in perspective, we talked about this. Godzilla Minus One, which won a bazillion awards, became the best film of 2023, I believe. That cost $15 million. So just this first season alone of The Rings of Power costs a shit ton of Godzilla Minus Ones, which again is proof you've already created the shit and you're just wasting more shit, I think. That doesn't really make sense, but it's a shit ton of money for basically nothing. Oops.